Hello students. So our next topic is characteristics of object-oriented programming. The major characteristics of object-oriented programming are objects, classes, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction. Okay. So we will discuss these characteristics one by one. So the first characteristic is object. So now in the object oriented programming, you will no longer ask how the problem will be divided into functions, but you will ask how it will be divided into objects. Okay. So we are thinking in terms of objects rather than functions. The match between programming objects and real world objects is the happy result of combining the data and functions. So what we have done in object oriented programming, we have combined the data and functions. How have we combined them? We have put them into the object. So what is the result of this? The result is that we can model the real world. Okay. So no such close match between programming constructs and data items being modeled exists in a procedural language. Examples of objects. Any real world thing can be an object. For example, physical objects, automobiles, electrical components, countries, aircrafts, elements of computer user environment, windows, menus, graphic objects, mouse, keyboard, etc. Data storage constructs, customized arrays, stacks, linked lists, binary trees, human entities such as employees, students, customers, salespeople, collections of data such as an inventory, a personal file, dictionary, table of latitudes and longitudes, user-defined data types such as time, angles, complex numbers, points on the plane, components in computer games such as cars, positions in a board game such as checkers and chess, animals, opponents and friends in adventure games, and so on. Okay. So the next feature is classes. Objects are actually the instances of classes. What does this mean? We can explain it with the help of an analogy. For example, you might be knowing about the int data type which exists there in the C language. So using int data type, we can create as many variables of type int. For example, int day, int count, int divisor. So we can say that this int data type, we can think that this is analogous to a class, and these things, these variables, day, count, divisor, etc., they are analogous to objects. Okay, so the int data type is a class and we can create as many instances or objects of this class. Okay, objects are also called instances. Objects are the instances of classes. Okay. So in the similar way, we can define many objects of the same class. Here is an example. You have a car class. A class is actually a blueprint. It defines what data will be there in the object and what methods will be there in the object. Methods are also known as functions. Okay. So this car class contains a variable also known as data member, as we discussed in the previous video. This is a data member or instance variable, color, and it has a function drive. Okay, so this is just a blueprint. Okay, this is just a plan that there will be an object which will have a color and which will have a drive function. Okay, and then we can create as many objects of this car class as we want. So object 1 here is red car, black car, blue car. Okay. So a class serves as a plan or a blueprint. It specifies what data and what functions will be included in the objects of that class. And the important thing is creating a class does not create any objects. This is just a plan. Okay. Just as the mere existence of data type int does not create any variables. We know that in C language there exists a data type int, but mere existence does not ensure that there are some objects of this type. We have to create objects. Okay. Similarly, car is just a blueprint. It actually does not take and create any objects. Okay. It does not create any variables of class car. For example, Prince, Sting, Madonna. These are the members of rock musician class. There is a class rock musician. Okay. Just like this car, and it has members Prince, Sting and Madonna. There is no one person called rock musician. Okay. There is no person rock musician. This is just a class. Okay. But when we create such persons which possess the properties of a rock musician, we can say that those persons are the objects of the rock musician class, such as Prince, Sting and Madonna. Okay. So specific people with specific names are the members of this class if they possess certain characteristics. Okay. Similarly, red car, black car and blue car, they are the members. Here member means variables or objects. Variables or objects, or we can say instances. Okay. So rock musician is a class. Prince, Sting, Madonna, they are members, means they are the objects of this class. Why? Because they possess certain characteristics which match this class. Okay. Similarly, car is a class and these are the members, or these are the objects of this class, this red, blue and black. So now we move on to our next characteristic of object-oriented programming, that is encapsulation. Encapsulation is the mechanism that binds together functions and the data the functions manipulate. It also keeps the data and the functions, both of them, safe from outside interference and misuse. In the previous lecture, when we discussed that object binds together the data and the functions which operate on that data, then this property of this object binding the data and the functions together, this property is called encapsulation. Okay. And what is the use of encapsulation? It keeps the data safe from outside interference and misuse. So it prevents the unrestricted access. Okay. So there is no unrestricted access in case of object-oriented programming. There is no unrestricted access. The data is safe. And the object is the device which supports encapsulation. The next characteristic of object-oriented programming languages is data abstraction. Data abstraction means the implementation details are hidden from the user. Okay. Actually how the thing is working, it is hidden from the user. The user only knows how to use the thing. Okay. So here we have three levels inside an object. The innermost level contains the core functionality. Then the next level contains implementation details, and the topmost level contains the interface exposed to the user. Interface means just the Control means how to access the things, how to use the things. Okay, that is the interface. Okay, abstraction means displaying only the essential information and hiding the details. Data abstraction refers to providing only essential information about the data to the outside world while hiding the background details or implementation. We can take the example of driving a car. A car has many controls which are provided to the driver. For example, the driver can increase the speed by pressing the accelerator. The driver can move the steering to move the car. The driver can change gears, shift gears. Okay, and the driver can press the clutch and so on. So there are various controls given to the driver, but actually how the car is increasing the speed by pressing the accelerator, we do not know. How on moving the steering the car moves in a particular direction, we do not know. How by shifting the gears we can increase or decrease the speed of the car, we do not know. We do not know the actual inner working of the car. We are only familiar with the controls or the interfaces which are given to us. Okay. So another example is you are creating a program in which you are having a sort function. Sort function, the purpose of the sort function is to sort the given values. The user can give a set of random values, okay, and the purpose of the sort function is to sort them in ascending or descending order. Okay, so this should be the result of the sort function. Okay, so what the user does, user simply gives a list of unsorted numbers and gets a list of sorted numbers. The user does not know how the sort function is actually implemented, which algorithm is used to implement the sort function, whether the programmer is using bubble sort or quick sort or insertion sort or selection sort, we do not know. Okay, so the underlying implementation of the sort functionality can be changed between the releases of a library. Library means the program which the programmer has written, and as long as the interface stays the same, your function call will still work. Okay, the implementation can be changed. The user, the programmer can change his or her implementation from bubble sort to quick sort, but the interface will remain the same. The interface is call to a sort function, a list of unsorted numbers. So interface is same, but the implementation can be changed. The next characteristic is inheritance. Inheritance means you create a main class and you use the properties of the main class in the newer classes. For example, here I have created a new class animal. Okay, so animal class can be inherited by a class mammals, because mammals are also animals and they possess the properties of an animal. Similarly, amphibians, they also possess the properties of animal, plus they also have their own properties. Insects, they are also a kind of animals, but they also possess their own new unique features. Similarly, birds are animals and they also have their own features. Another example is vehicles. Vehicle is a general class and it can be inherited by cars, because cars are a type of vehicles. Similarly, trucks, motorcycles, buses. Okay, so all these classes, they are a type of vehicles, so they possess the properties which are possessed by any vehicle in general, but specifically they also contain their own unique properties. So this is inheritance. Each subclass, what is a subclass? Subclass is the inherited class. Okay, There are two kinds of classes, the base class or the superclass, and the subclass or the derived class. Okay, so each subclass shares common characteristics with the class from which it is derived. Okay, so base class contains features A and B. All the derived classes, the classes which are derived or inherited from this base class, they will possess the features of base class, that is feature A and feature B. Derived class A contains feature A and B, B also contains feature A and B, C also contains feature A and B. Okay, but they also contain their own features. Derived class A contains a new feature C, B contains a new feature D and another feature E, C contains a new feature F. Okay, so cars, buses, trucks and motorcycles all have wheels and a motor. These are the defining characteristics of vehicles. In addition to the characteristics shared by other members of the class, each subclass has its own particular characteristics. Buses, for instance, have seats for many people, while trucks have space for hauling heavy loads. Object-oriented class can become a parent of several subclasses. The original class is called the base class in C++. Other classes can be defined that share its characteristics but add their own as well. These are called the derived classes. Base class contains elements common to a group of derived. The benefit of inheritance is reusability. What is reusability? Once a class has been written, created and debugged, it can be distributed to other programmers for use in their programs. This thing is called reusability. In object-oriented programming, the concept of inheritance provides an important extension to the idea of reusability. We can say that reusability is implemented with the help of inheritance in object-oriented programming. A programmer can take an existing class and without modifying it, the programmer can add additional features and capabilities to it. So remember, whenever you are inheriting a class, you are not modifying it. The base class will remain intact. It will remain the same. Only the derived class is copying all the features. All the features and capabilities of the base class are actually copied to the derived class, and the derived class also adds its own new features. Okay, so this is the inheritance, and through inheritance we are implementing the reusability because we are not writing the derived class from scratch. We are copying some of the features from a base class and we are adding some new features to it. C++ also gives us the capability to create new data types. For example, 2D positions. For example, we have 2D coordinates and there is a point in this system 4, 5. Okay, so in C or C++, we can create a variable to hold one of these values. Either x can store 4 or x can store 5, but x cannot hold both the values at the same time. But using the features of object-oriented programming, we are able to create new data types which are able to handle these types of things. Okay, so we can also create new data types, but also we can perform normal arithmetic operations on them. We can perform addition, we can perform subtraction and so on. Okay, for example, if this is a position, this is a variable pos 1, you can create a new variable pos 2 by adding two values 0, 0. So this is pos 2, suppose. Then we can do it like this: pos 1 is equal to 4, 5 plus 0, 0, and the result will be pos 1 equal to 4, 5. So this is a normal arithmetic operation, addition of two 2D positions, which is not allowed in normal C++ or C language, but by defining our own new data types, we can create such data types, as well as we can perform the arithmetic operations on them as normally as we do on the system defined data types. So the next properties are polymorphism, and the related concept is overloading. The equal to and plus operators used in previous example, the example was pos1 is equal to pos2 plus origin. So there were two operators in that example, the equal sign and the plus operators. They do not act the same way as they do in operations on built-in types such as int. Now they are not acting in the same way. They are acting on a new data type. They are not adding two integers, they are adding two 2D positions. So the objects position 1 and so on are not defined in C++, but they are the user defined or the programmer defined, and equal to and plus are operating on the user defined data types or programmer defined data types instead of the built-in data types. So the question arises that how do then the equal and plus operators know how to operate on these objects? How are they able to add 4, 5 to 0, 0? Answer is, we can define new behaviors for these operators also. New behavior means the earlier behavior they know is they can add two numbers. This is the normal behavior. But the new behavior is adding the 2D positions. They have to add the first coordinate or the x coordinate to the corresponding x coordinate, and they have to add y coordinate to the corresponding y coordinate. How do they know this, that I have to do this thing? Because we are defining, we are telling them. Okay. So these operations, these new operations will be the member of the position class. So the operators or the functions can behave in different ways depending on what they are operating on. This thing is called polymorphism, one thing with several distinct forms. For example, the plus operator, normally it operates on int data type, it can also operate on double, and we are giving it the capability to operate on 2D positions. Okay, so this is a one operator, single operator, but it can operate, it can behave differently depending on whether it is operating on int data type or it is operating on a 2D position. Okay, so one thing but multiple forms. This thing is called the polymorphism. And when an existing operator such as plus or equal to is given the capability to operate on a new data type, this operator is said to be overloaded. The original capability of this plus operator is to operate on int data type or double data type, but we are giving it the additional capability to operate on 2D positions, so we can say that the plus is overloaded. Overloading is a kind of polymorphism. So now we will briefly discuss the evolution of C++. The evolution of C++ began in 1980s when John Strostrup, the father of C++, began working on C with classes, and it resulted in an object-oriented programming language. Then in 1983, C got renamed to C++. New features were added to it, most important being virtual functions, overriding, etc. In 1985, the C++ programming language was released and was ready for commercial use. In 1990s, the annotated C++ manual was released, followed by Boland's Turbo C++ compiler for commercial use. In mid-2011, the dubbed C++ 11 got completed and released. C++ has many versions. C++ 1998, which was released in October 1998. It was the first edition of C++. Then came C++ 03, which was released in Feb 2003 as the second edition of C++. The third edition of C++, the C++ 11, got released in August 2011. In August 2014, C++ 14, the fourth edition of C++, was released. And the fifth edition, C++ 17, was released in December 2017. C++ 20 is also on the way. When we compare C and C++, we find that C++ has many of the features which are there in C. So if we look at this diagram, this is the C language. C language has a set of features. So these features can be divided into two categories. These are the features which are not commonly used in C++, and these are the features which are common to C and C++. Okay. So C++ is actually a superset of C. It means C++ has all the features which are there in C language, but commonly we use some of the features. Some of the features we do not use, although they can be used. Okay. And C++ has also got some other useful features, and it also has object-oriented programming features. Almost every correct statement in C is also a correct statement in C++, but the reverse is not true. It means every correct statement in C++ is not always a correct statement in C. C++ programs can use existing C software libraries. C adopts procedure-oriented programming, while C++ adopts object-oriented programming. C follows top-down approach of programming, while C++ follows bottom-up approach of programming. Some real-world applications of C++: games such as Doom 3, Unreal Engine; GUI-based applications such as Adobe Systems, Illustrator, Photoshop, Winamp Media Player, ImageReady; database softwares like MySQL; operating systems such as parts of Apple OS X, Symbian Mobile OS. Most of the software from Microsoft is developed using C++. Flavors of Visual C++. Applications like Windows 95, ME 98, XP, etc. are written in C++. Apart from this, the IDE, Visual Studio, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Office are also written in C++. Browsers such as Mozilla Firefox, Thunderbird, email client, Google applications like Google File System and Chrome browser, they are also written in C++. Compilers such as Apple C++, Bloodshed Dave C++, Clang C++, and MingW, they are also written using C++. And these are the references for this chapter. Thank you.